80% of the population is stuck in the cycle of eating these processed foods that are marketed to us here in America, especially because they're cheap, they're affordable, they're convenient, they taste really good, they're designed to be hyper palatable and addictive. And that's what most people gravitate towards because of this convenience and their comfort foods.
One of the most selfish things you can do in this world is to become unhealthy, because then you rob yourself of your true personality and all of those in your life. And if you end up getting sick, your family needs to take care of you.
When you're sleep deprived, right? And you wake up every morning, you're exhausted. You know, a lot of people gravitate towards stimulants, right? Tons of caffeine first thing when they wake up. Like, I gotta wake up, oh, I need more energy, I'm just so exhausted. And your stress hormones are through the roof, so your cortisol is elevated all day long. So your ability to handle stress is diminished versus what it would be if you were sleeping through the night and your hormones were balanced.
I am super excited to bring on an extraordinary human being who's not only knowledgeable, he's genuine, he's loving, he's caring, he's just an incredible rock star of a human being. He is the New York Times bestselling author of Fit2Fat2Fit. He also wrote the Complete Keto book, which is a fantastic book for all levels of keto. He's been on the Keto Kamp Podcast before. You might have listened to that episode. It was about a year ago. He was actually here at Keto Kamp HQ. Now he's coming back to talk about a new experiment he did at the age of 40, which he's going to reveal all about that. You might have been following his journey either way. So without further ado, here is the man, Drew Manning. Hey, brother.
Ben, what's up, man? It's always good to be back with you, even though it's not in person this time.
I know. We'll do it maybe the next time in Hawaii. I'll come out to you.
Yeah, you come visit me this time.
All right, Drew. So some people listening or watching right now might not be familiar with you. Most of them probably are. So let's recap. Several years ago, you decided to do something crazy which got you pretty famous. So let's recap what you did, and then let's take it back to today and why you do it again.
Yeah, so back in 2011 is when I did my first Fit2Fat2Fit experiment. And going into that, why did I do that? Well, you know, I grew up in a family of 11 brothers and sisters, and we all played sports. So because of that, I was very active and very fit, never once struggled with my weight. Fast forward to about 2009 and became a personal trainer. You know, was your typical trainer, six-pack abs, always in shape, but never once overweight a day in my life. And then my clients were overweight pretty much every day of their life. And there was a huge disconnect because I couldn't understand why it was so hard for them to follow the meal plans or do the workouts that I gave them. And so I went on this journey to gain a better understanding of what it was like to be overweight. And I put on 75 pounds in 6 months. It was way harder than I thought it was going to be. I was totally humbled. I was totally wrong in my approach to helping people transform. And because I was humbled, because I went through that journey, I learned so many valuable lessons on the mental and emotional side of transformation that I probably wouldn't have learned, you know, just staying fit and in shape my entire life. And so that first Fit2Fat2Fit experiment was really about truly understanding what it was like to be overweight. And I gained so much empathy out of that first journey that I wanted to kind of change my approach and how I helped people and lead with empathy first. And so that first experiment went viral, like you mentioned. You know, wrote my own book, had my own TV show, went on a bunch of other TV shows to talk about what I learned from that first experiment. But I was 31 years old, so I had definitely had youth on my side, different metabolism, different hormones, and so you know, I was a lot younger back then, and learned a lot of valuable lessons. So I don't actually have any regrets about doing it. And that's kind of how I've built a name for myself was that first experiment.
Yeah, it was fun to watch that. You were on Jay Leno. You were on, I think, the Dr. Oz as well, right?
Dr. Oz, yeah.
Dr. Oz, all these TV shows. So you probably heard that. Hey, yeah, this guy, he was 31 years old. Of course, it's easy for him to do that. But then now you're 40 years old and you decide to do it again. So how did that come about?
Yeah, you know what? It was really interesting. 2020 was a really crazy year for all of us, right? Like a lot of weird stuff happened and it became really chaotic really quickly. There was a point in all that craziness where I almost felt called to do Fit2Fat2Fit again because I saw how divided the world was becoming. I saw how quick to judgment people were on social media. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? Back in 2011, social media wasn't what it is today. Like back in 2011, there was Facebook. You know, there was YouTube, And that's pretty much it. Instagram hadn't come on the scene just yet. And they were totally different. There was no Facebook Lives. There was no live streaming. There was no Insta stories. There was like none of that. So I realized that back in 2011, there was a very small amount of people that actually followed the journey as it happened, that got to see the day in, the day out, what I was going through mentally, emotionally, physically during that first experiment. I felt like, look, my message is one of empathy. This world needs more empathy. The fitness industry needs more empathy. Maybe by doing it again among all in the midst of all this chaos, maybe my call for empathy will be heard by some people. And so I felt almost called to do it again a second time, but this time as a 40-year-old, because as we all know, it does get harder as you age. You're kind of competing against, declining, testosterone levels, for example. And I know so many people that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s that just tell me all the time, like, I'm eating the same thing I did back in the day, and it's just not working like it used to. And so I wanted to give those people in that age demographics a little bit of hope and say, look, I'm going to do this journey too as a 40-year-old, and we're going to do this journey back to fit together as a team. And yeah, it might be harder, but it's still possible. And I'm going to go through the same struggles that you are. And also you can follow along on Facebook Live, on YouTube Live, on Insta stories.
Now you have all that access. Yeah.
Yeah, and so people really got to see the day in and day out, a day in the life of what I was going through. I mean, you probably saw some of my crazy stuff I was putting in my mouth. And what's so interesting about that is people, could relate to that. Like, I know that you and I really don't eat those foods, very often, but 80% of the population is stuck in the cycle of eating these processed foods that are marketed to us here in America, especially because they're cheap, they're affordable, they're convenient, they taste really good, they're designed to be hyper palatable and addictive. And that's what most people gravitate towards because of this convenience and their comfort foods. And so going through, doing my journey, I really got to show people every single day what a day in the life looked like of what I was doing. And my hope was that people could see that and almost see themselves in this journey and be like, oh, Drew's drinking 3 Coronas at nighttime and eating donuts before bed. No wonder his sleep is declining, which I was tracking my sleep data. I was tracking, my blood glucose levels, all kinds of data to show people, like, look, eating this food doesn't just make you gain fat. Like, if that's all it did, it actually wouldn't be that bad. But because it's changing your blood work, your hormones, it's affecting your sleep, which affects your mood, right? Mm-hmm. Which affects your relationships. Like me as a dad, I was definitely not the nicest dad because I was sleep deprived, dude, for 4 months straight. And, drinking, alcohol at nighttime and having, cake and all these sugary foods. Yeah, it tasted good. But look what it did to my blood work. Look what it did to my hormones. Look what it did to just, my personality in a sense. Yeah. And so I think that's what made it a little bit more powerful than the first time around.
Such an important share because a lot of people, it's estimated that 88% of Americans are metabolically inflexible. So they're eating these processed foods, and foods help dictate how you feel, to your point. So a lot of people who are assholes, a lot of people who are irritable, a lot of people who are in relationships where they're verbally abusive, part of that could actually be from their nutrition and the fact that they're not getting good sleep and the fact that they're giving themselves, their body's deprived from actual nutrients. And I always say, Drew, one of the most selfish things you can do in this world is to become unhealthy, because then you rob yourself of your true personality and all of those in your life. And if you end up getting sick, your family needs to take care of you. Like when my dad got sick, I needed to take care of my dad for 9 months. And it's the most selfish thing you can do. So that was an amazing explanation of why you did it the second time around. But you know what's going to happen, Drew? When you're 50 years old, you're going to have the 50-year-old say, oh, I bet you can't do it when you're 50. What are you going to do then?
That's a good question. Here's what I've learned from my first experience. When I first did it, I swore I would never do it again. I was like, I'll never do this again. It was so hard. And I think because I did that, I almost manifested it to happen a second time because I was like, I'm never doing it. So I've learned never to say never. And so I'm not going to say I'll never do it. But to be honest with you, Ben, like, I don't foresee myself ever doing it again. Like, I think I definitely realized, because I went into this journey a little bit cocky, honestly, Ben. I was like, oh, I got this. I've done this before. Like, I know what to expect. Like, it'll be fine. It'll be easy, right? And man, I was truly humbled once again in how hard it was. And so, a lot can happen in 10 years. Let's be honest. A lot can change, but I don't foresee myself doing this again at, Fit2Fat2Fit. So just want to throw that out there.
What was the hardest thing about it?
That's a good question. And just to be totally honest and open, and people probably saw this if they saw it, was probably going through my breakup, which I did not expect to happen. You know, I had a girlfriend 2 years. We were in love. Things were going good. We joked about me making her sign a contract like that she couldn't break up with me during this journey, right? And here's the interesting thing. A lot of people ask me, you know, did you break up because of this journey? And the honest truth is no. Like we had problems before the journey even started, but those problems, to your point, were amplified because of my unhealthy physical state, which affected my emotional state. Because when you're sleep deprived, right, and you wake up every morning, you're exhausted. You know, a lot of people gravitate towards stimulants, right? Tons of caffeine first thing when they wake up. Like, I got to wake up. Oh, I need more energy. I'm just so exhausted. And your stress hormones are through the roof. So your cortisol is elevated all day long. So your ability to handle stress is diminished versus what it would be if you were sleeping through the night and your hormones were balanced. And for me, what that meant, what that looked like in the real world was, okay, dealing with kids, dealing with business, dealing with issues with my girlfriend, and all the parents out there can relate to this. My level of patience is like this much per day, right? And slowly gets chipped away, throughout the day, where like by the end of the day, my patience is gone. I'm like, okay, I can't deal with this anymore. When you're sleep deprived and you're physically unhealthy, right? Not just overweight, I'm talking about physically unhealthy. That is shortened to where now your ability to handle stress is severely diminished. You're more reactive. You're more in survival mode. And that causes a lot more issues in whatever relationship you're in, whether as a dad or as a boyfriend. Your ability to handle stress from your partner is not what it used to be. And so those problems that we had that existed before this journey started that were never resolved were amplified probably, 10x or so in those moments of high stress and, eating those foods and being sleep deprived. It was like the perfect storm of all those things kind of coming together. And unfortunately, life happens. But so that was the hardest part of this journey, Ben, to be honest with you, was dealing with those emotions. And let me kind of tie this into one of the biggest lessons. And this is the power of emotional eating. And I thought I understood it, but I realized I didn't understand it at as deep of a level as I did after the breakup. Okay. Because before this, I was eating food, which tasted good. Don't get me wrong. It made me feel good temporarily. I was eating the food to gain the weight, right? This is part of my experiment, what I do. Now, having a breakup happen, halfway through, I was sad, I was lonely, I was depressed for the first time in my life. And there's something to be said for these little dopamine hits that you get constantly from these delicious processed foods, right? And unfortunately, you don't get the same chemical reaction when you eat chicken and broccoli, right? It's just not the same, mechanism that happens in your brain when you versus Ben & Jerry's ice cream, for example, or a glass of alcohol. So dealing with emotional pain from life, whether it's a breakup, a bankruptcy, a divorce, like whatever it is, right? There's stress that happens in life. We as humans have programmed ourselves to gravitate towards substances, whether it's food, drugs, alcohol, sex, porn, TV shows, social media, movies, whatever it is, to distract ourselves from the emotional pain, because sometimes we don't know how to deal with that emotional pain and it's too much for us and we need something to numb that pain temporarily. And that's why I don't judge people. For some people, like I said, it's food, which becomes their drug of choice because it's, like I said, convenient, affordable, tastes really good. It's at the tip of your fingertips. It's in your fridge. It's in your cupboards. It's at DoorDash. It's at the restaurant, at the grocery store. We have so much access to these delicious foods literally all day long. And I'm not condoning that behavior. All I'm saying is I understand on a deeper level now, having gone through that breakup and feeling depressed and eating a few bites of Ben & Jerry's ice cream and having a glass of wine, I was like, you know what? I feel a little bit better. I'm not going to lie. And so what I'm saying is I understand the emotional eating on a deeper level, because then it creates this vicious cycle, right? And then people are they try and willpower their way into a new healthy lifestyle, but the emotions of life don't go away. The stresses of life don't go away. And if you programmed your brain to reach for the easy stuff day in and day out, and then you're like 2 weeks into your new diet, you're trying to willpower your way to not eat that food. It's a really hard habit to break. And it's really hard to break that cycle. It's like going up to a drug addict and being like, hey, you can't do drugs anymore. And how hard is that? That's super hard for drug addicts. I would say it's very similar for people that are food addicts that deal with stress with food, right? And the difference between food and drugs is food is legal. drugs are illegal, and food is everywhere at the grocery store. You see your friends eating it.
Yep.
Everyone's eating it in front of your face on commercials, on social media.
It's acceptable, socially acceptable. Yep.
Exactly. It's socially acceptable. And so I would say it's almost harder for people that are food addicts. And that's why if you've been doing this for years and decades, it's really hard to break that. And so for me, that was probably the hardest part to go through, but I learned a lot of lessons from that.
Yeah. And you outlined, that was one part of it, but you outlined 6 really deep lessons that you learned from you doing your experiment the second time around. I want to get into that, but before we do, you mentioned that you were using a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor. So what were some of the things, you still have it on right now with levels? Yeah.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that you saw going through when you were gaining the weight with your blood sugars versus losing the weight?
Oh man, I didn't know my blood sugars could get up that high, but
How high did it go?
The highest I saw was after cotton candy, and I got up to over 200.
Oh,
so that was the highest.
Damaging your blood vessels right there, dude.
But on a day-to-day basis, most foods were like 150s, 160s, which
still high.
For me is high for sure. For other people that might be diabetic, they'd be like, "Oh, I wish I could have a 150 or 160." It's all individual, right? But what I learned from that, Ben, was these spikes and crashes, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day is exhausting on your body. My exhaustion levels were at all-time highs when I was going through this journey, because I was I needed to take naps almost because I was so tired from these spikes and crashes. And this is why so many people get sleepy when they eat this way, and they never feel fully rested. Probably because they're not sleeping efficiently at night, because I tracked my HRV on my Whoop device, which went from my baseline was like around 100 or so, 100 plus.
Pretty good.
Yeah, 100 plus is really good, to 44, 45.
Wow, that's
just a huge drop.
Steep drop, dude. Wow.
And so that's what I learned from tracking some of this data was, how exhausting it was, eating these foods. And people they don't really, correlate eating food to exhaust, your blood sugar levels or exhaustion levels throughout the day. And so that's pretty much what I learned, gaining the weight. On the journey back to fit, it was awesome. This is what's so cool about keto, intermittent fasting. Man, it was between, 100 maybe, on some days to 110, most of the day, just kind of, small little bumps here and there. But for the most part, yeah, it was pretty even throughout the day, and so much more energy, so much more mental clarity. No, I didn't need to take naps anymore. And that's what I wanted to show people is like, hey, here's my blood work when I'm healthy and eating, low carb, whole foods, mostly a keto approach. And then here's my blood sugar, like this roller coaster when I'm eating all these processed foods. So it was pretty interesting.
The transition from once you gained the weight and you said, okay, it's time to lose it. How did you make that transition? Did you go cold turkey, or was it a gradual approach into that?
So here's the thing. When when I do these experiments, like when I did back in the day, I gained 62 pounds in 4 months, which is a lot of weight to gain in 4 months. To lose that in 4 months, you have to be like, you're on the clock. So in a real world setting, yeah, maybe for some people I would have tapered them off like slowly, but for me, I had to do it cold turkey, where January 3rd, which was Sunday, and to January 4th, which was that first Monday of the new year. That's when I, flipped the switch and went keto. And
how was that day? How did you feel that day?
I was excited, and it's very similar to my first journey. I was excited, but I did not underestimate the power of withdrawal symptoms like I did the first time. When I first did it, I had no idea my body would almost fight back against me with cravings and almost pushing me to eat the processed food, because I had trained it for so long to eat that food and enjoy the high that it got from eating those foods constantly for 6 months straight. So going into that, the weight loss aspect of the second journey, I was prepared for that mentally, knowing, hey, I'm not going to feel great right away. I'm not going to feel all this energy and mental clarity. Like on day one, I'll probably feel miserable a little bit, because my body's like, hey, where's our Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Where's our Mountain Dew? Where's this or that? Where's our Ben & Jerry's? And so your body does freak out a little bit. And I was prepared for it this time. So I knew it was going to be a little bit hard, but it's so cool, because not only was I doing this journey, there was thousands of people doing this journey with me that signed up to follow me on the app. And that's what kept me going. I was like open with them on my Insta stories and my live saying, look, you guys, it's day 2. I am craving some Ben and Jerry's. I'm not going to lie. And guess what? We're going to get through this together. It's going to be a little bit hard mentally, but we can do hard things. And if I can do it, you can do it. And if you can do it, I can do it. And that's kind of like the power of doing it with other people.
Yeah, the power of community. I love that. So
Yeah.
day 1, what was your weight? What was your weight on the final day? And then what about body fat percentage too?
Yeah, so I started out at 181.6 at 8.4% body fat on day 1. Got up to 244 pounds, 26.2% body fat at my heaviest.
Wow.
And then, I did get back to fit, around the same measurements, to be honest with you. Maybe slightly different, a little bit less weight, a little bit lower body fat. But the body fat machines, whether it's accurate or not, who knows? I tell people, like, it's not about being accurate. It's about measuring change. So let's just say I got back to fit.
What an incredible, the human body is so adaptable, and you're a perfect example of that. I want to get into some of the more lessons, but before we do, for the Keto Kamp Academy members who are watching right now, feel free to start posting your questions. I see that there's a question about caffeine, which we'll get to later. And then I'm going to drop a special link if any of you want to take action and actually join Drew, Manning, and myself on this actual live stream, be a part of the podcast recording. I'm going to drop a link for you right now in the comment section of this live stream. Just click that. Just make sure you have no distraction. You have a good, maybe a microphone, a good background, and you're not naked. We make sure you're not naked, and you can join us. I just dropped the StreamYard. Yeah, don't surprise Drew and I with your nakedness. So let's get to that. Let's get to the lessons that you learned. You kind of shared a little bit already, but the first main one was transformation is way more mental, emotional than we think. Share some more.
Sure. So pre-Fit to Fat to Fit, before I ever did my first journey, most trainers, I think, go into the fitness world thinking, oh, here's my certification. Here's what I focus on: nutrition, exercise, supplementation, proper form. Yes, great. All great information. Very important when it comes to physical transformation. The problem with that model is it takes out the human element of transformation, which, like I mentioned before, the stresses of life don't go away when you're on a physical weight loss journey. And so after having done this twice now, it's still misunderstood that weight loss or a physical transformation journey is way more mental and emotional than people think. So like you and I, we could give people all the tools that they need on the physical side, the perfect meal plans, macros, calories, workouts, and supplements to take to change their physical body. But if you're not prepared to deal with the mental and emotional challenges that have been holding you back from living that healthy physical lifestyle change, consistently, then it's just going to be another diet that you do. It's probably going to be something you do for 30 days, 90 days. You see some results, but then you still haven't rewired your brain to either, one, release those emotional issues, or two, create some new neural pathways and some new thought patterns to see your situation through a new lens and new perception so that you can actually have success on the physical transformation side. So what I'm trying to do is bring more awareness into this fitness industry by saying, hey, when we look at someone that's overweight, society can be very mean and judgmental. And a lot of people think, dude, why don't these people just eat less and work out more? Like, it's so simple. You just do it.
Doctors say that.
Yeah, doctors say, well, you need to just lose some weight. They're like, okay, well, how do I do that?
I want to pause this interview real quick and say thank you so much for reaching this point of the interview. If you're getting any value so far, hit the thumbs up button on this video down below, and check out the subscribe button here on the channel. If you're not subscribed to the Keto Kamp YouTube channel as of yet, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you're notified when we go live, release a brand new video. We do that 2 to 3 times per week. I want to take a few seconds here to get to the sponsor of this episode, which is Upgraded Formulas. If you're anything like me, you probably spend quite an amount of money on supplements every single month. Wouldn't it be great if you knew you were absorbing those supplements or not absorbing those supplements? What I'm bringing you today is an exciting new opportunity to test the accuracy of the supplementation, the vitamins and the minerals, if they're actually doing what they're supposed to do. After all, you can't be a biohacker without testing, can you? In this case, I'm referring to Upgraded Formulas, upgraded hair test kit and consultation. It's very easy to do this test. It's a kit that's sent to you. You would just use hair from your body. It could be head, it could be body, it could be pubic hair. You send in your hair and then you get a consultation and you review which supplements you should be taking versus which supplements you shouldn't be taking. How well are you absorbing that? And this will be a great way to discover why you just don't feel so well. Even if you're taking all these supplements, but you still feel tired, you still have symptoms. This will give you the exact picture on what you should do next to correct that issue. I love upgraded formulas. I had Barton Scott on my podcast, the Keto Kamp Podcast, before. We have an exclusive offer for you to get 10% off your hair mineral analysis kit and any of their amazing supplements, which are highly absorbed. Head to upgradedformulas.com. Use the coupon code BEN10, that is BEN10, at checkout to get 10% off today. We will also drop a link down below for you. That's upgradedformulas.com. Use the coupon code BEN10. All right, let's get back to this incredible interview.
Well, just lose weight, eat less, and work out more. And so I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to change the narrative of the fitness industry and disrupt it by saying, hey, let's be more aware of how mental and emotional this is. And let's give people tools on the mental and emotional side. And that's why we need more empathy in the fitness industry, so that people don't feel so judged and, labeled by society as lazy or less than because of their bodies or, their body fat percentage or how big their bodies are. So that's the first lesson: is transformation is way more mental and emotional than we think.
Amen, brother. And you're not trying. You're actually doing it. You're changing the industry. The second, I always say you got to exercise before you exercise. It's exactly what you just said. Mental, emotional. You got to master that. You can do all the keto and fasting you want, but if you don't have it going on in here, like to Drew's point, it's going to be very difficult. Second thing is the emotional connection to food is way more powerful than we admit to ourselves.
Yeah. So very similar to, the picture that I painted earlier in this podcast, Ben, was showing people, eating this food, which we think is just a physical action of putting, calories in our mouth, fats, proteins, carbs. But if you build your self-awareness, you realize why you gravitate towards those foods to, one, numb some type of pain or emotional trauma or challenge that you've been going through. And maybe you haven't really become aware of what that is yet. And that food becomes your drug, where now you've programmed your brain to deal with emotional pain in life by reaching for a physical substance that makes you, gives you the little dopamine hit. And same thing with social media, or, they track that and they know that there's this little dopamine hit you get constantly throughout the day. And these little dopamine hits temporarily make you feel better. And so you're training your brain to gravitate towards these little releases, and numbing mechanisms to deal with emotional pain. And until you deal with that emotional pain and learn to release it, it's going to be, so much harder to try and willpower your way out of it. I know a lot of people think they have willpower and they think they can willpower their way to a new lifestyle. But from my experience, probably from your experience too, it's just not sustainable for most people until they learn how to, become more aware of what those emotional triggers are.
So how do you become more aware? How do you deal with it? What are some practical things we can start doing?
Yeah, thanks for asking about that. I, some of the tips and tools that I give my followers when they go on a physical journey with me, to transformation journey, is I have them do homework on the mental and emotional side. And so what that list looks like is simple things that really have nothing to do with weight loss. They're not going to get you a six-pack, but they really are powerful when it comes to training your brain to break that cycle, and then also to become comfortable in uncomfortable situations, which is what any kind of transformation is. So that list includes things like making your bed every single day, taking a cold shower for a minimum of 60 seconds, which sucks. It's so hard. I get it. It's so uncomfortable. And yeah, there are some physical health benefits, but that's besides the point. For me, it's more of a mental discipline thing. And it's the ability to, in those 60 seconds, when you're freezing cold, you want to, your fight or flight, is activated. You want to freak out. Being able to control your breathing and become present in the moment. Slow your breathing down and realize that you're okay. You're not going to die. And it trains your brain to become comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. Same thing with meditation, positive affirmations, a daily gratitude list. Something, these things can be uncomfortable for lots of people, but training your brain to become comfortable in these uncomfortable situations can carry over into the uncomfortability of eating healthy food, right? Which maybe doesn't taste as good as processed food, but we know it's healthy for us. Maybe eating a little bit less food than you're used to, and that feeling of being a little bit hungry is uncomfortable for a lot of us. And then in the gym, working out, sore muscles, sweaty, uncomfortable situation. Now you can say, hey, I've done these other things. And now I can tell myself, hey, body, mind, we're okay. We're not going to die. These things are hard, but guess what? We can do these hard things because now we've trained our brain in other areas of our life, these mental and emotional tools that I listed earlier. And we can become comfortable in these uncomfortable situations. And that makes the physical journey so much easier. And so those things help to build that self-awareness and make our mind more resilient when it comes to transformation.
Those are great tips, Drew. I agree that those disciplines transfer over. And when you practice things like gratitude and journaling, it doesn't sound like it's not a sexy topic, but that it's changed my life, Drew. Like gratitude, focusing on what I appreciate, I get more to appreciate. And it's true. What you appreciate. So those are some great tips there. And keto campers, pick and choose. You could choose all the ones that Drew just recommended. You could choose one or two. But I think it's the consistency of applying them every single day, these small little tweaks that could lead to giant peaks with your health transformation, with your physical transformation, because all of this is connected. It's not just go exercise or follow these macros or whatever it is. All that could be great, but you got to really work the inside. So really, really great explanation, Drew.
Yeah.
Next is, I love this one. We are more than our bodies. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, man, this took me this took an identity crisis for me to happen to learn this lesson. So when I first did Fit2Fat2Fit in 2011, my identity was my body image. I was Drew, the fit guy, because that's all I'd ever known. That's what my body looked like. And when you grow up your entire life in shape, most of us identify as this fit. We identify as our bodies. Same thing for those who grew up their entire life out of shape or overweight. We identify our identity as our body image. And when I first did Fit2Fat2Fit the first time, I freaked out. Like I really did. I was so uncomfortable because I was like, this isn't me. I wanted to go up to strangers and explain to them like, hey, I'm not really overweight, you guys. This isn't like normal. Let me show you what I really look like, because I had that identity crisis. Going through that first experiment and coming out of it on the other side, I realized that our identity, our self-image is not our body image. And that's just something that we buy into at some point, maybe as kids, maybe we're teased, maybe we're bullied because of the way we look or the way our bodies are. And we start to identify ourselves as, oh, I am this body is me. And it takes a while to unlearn that and break that cycle of who we are, what is our identity without our body. And that's such a powerful tool to learn, whether through its meditation or therapy or life coaching or reading books or listening to podcasts, learning how to step outside of your body and realize that you have so much more to offer this world than what your physical body looks like on social media or how much you weigh or how much body fat you have. And until you break free from that, you're going to be trapped in this mindset that the world has created for you and programs you to think like, hey, you're your body, your value to society is based off of what our societal values are on body image. And unfortunately, society, tells people, you're of less value if you're overweight and you live in a larger body. And it's up to us to either believe in that myth, or we can learn to break that myth and realize that, hey, there's more to me than my body. I'm not just my body. There's more to me than the color of my skin. There's more to me than the amount of fat that I have. And we have to break free from, the matrix almost of what society tells us to think.
The programming is very strong. Really, and there's a lot of resistance, right, Drew? So I love that. Great share right there. Another one that all these are kind of interrelated here. The next one is we need more empathy for those that struggle with weight because it's not as simple as eating less and working out more. That's a bold statement for somebody in the fitness industry. So I'm sure you get some backlash about that, but share some more about that.
Yeah, man. I mean, what I'm trying to do with Fit2Fat2Fit, this whole movement, is to let people know that this is coming from someone who is fit, someone who's in shape most of my life, to let the world know that, like everyone else out there that is maybe judgmental or maybe, doesn't understand why transformation is mental and emotional. I'm trying to be that voice of, look, we need to be more aware that when it comes to transformation, people don't struggle with just eating less and working out. It's way more mental and emotional than we think. And no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And that is something that Fit2Fat2Fit is, that's like my motto. Like that's something that I'm trying to get across to people in this industry and other industries where leaders, coaches, trainers, doctors, whatever, don't understand that connection to the people they're trying to help. No one cares how much you know. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't know how to relate to your clients or followers, unfortunately, it's going to be harder for them to listen to you if they just feel like you're just this robot almost that has no compassion or emotion or empathy. And I feel like empathy can be a game changer, because we saw this on my TV show with Fit2Fat2Fit on A&E, where we put other trainers through this program, and then they had to lose the weight with their client. And you saw those clients, when they saw their trainer put on the weight intentionally, they were so much more connected to their trainer at that moment, because they realized that their trainer was humbled and that they could connect with them on a deeper emotional level, especially when it came to food, and they were humbled, and then they were more willing to listen to what they had to say. And so this is why, if we lead with empathy first in this world of weight loss, instead of shaming people, I feel like we can make such a bigger impact when it comes to lifelong, transformation, not just getting people skinny, not just getting people this perfect body, but helping them realize that they're worth it to fight for their physical health, because when their physical health is in check, guess what? Their mental and emotional and spiritual health is so much easier to put in check. But we have to have that good base of physical health first and foremost. And so that's kind of why I feel like, instead of shaming people into losing weight and making them feel bad for who they are, let's lead with empathy, and let's see if that can make a difference, not just in this industry, but in the world.
Amen. We need more empathy in the world right now more than ever, because there's a lot of division going on with a lot of different topics. So beautifully said, Drew. I see a lot of the comments that are, I don't know if you could see the comments in the little chat. Yeah, but there's a lot of.
Oh, I do now.
Yeah, check them out. You can see. Yeah, so we'll get to some of your questions, Keto Campers, in a moment. I want to just get to the last item on the list here.
Sure.
There's two more, but the last one's about Ben and Jerry's and Cinnamon Toast Crunch. So maybe we can skip that. Maybe we could skip that. The last one here is our physical health, not necessarily our weight. Very important to distinguish that. Affects our mental, emotional, and spiritual health more than we think. We kind of went over that, but if you could go deeper, that'd be great. Yeah,
let me summarize that. So when I went through my breakup during my Fit2Fat2Fit experiment, this is where I realized that, the way we eat, the exercise we do or don't do, has such a profound impact on how we show up in this world. And I really, truly believe that a healthier version of you, not necessarily a skinnier version, a more ripped version of you, but a healthier version of you, is going to cause you to be happier, more fulfilled in this life, or at least it'll be easier to be happier and more fulfilled. I'm not promising, hey, if you sleep through the night, you eat real food, you exercise, and you manage your stress, those 4 pillars of health, that you're guaranteed to be happy. No, I'm saying it's easier to be happier when you have those 4 pillars of health in check. That's all I'm trying to say. And so I want to switch things around in the fitness industry, and instead of saying, hey, let's focus on getting skinny and getting ripped, let's focus on being healthy first and foremost, and doing those pillars of health, right? Like, I don't care what diet you do, just don't focus so much on processed food. Like, don't eat only processed food. Focus on some type of real whole food, and most of the time you'll probably be better off focusing on whole food. Exercise, move your body every single day in a way that feels good to you. It doesn't have to be 60 minutes of cardio, 60 minutes of weight lifting. It can be fun. It can be interactive. You move your body in so many different ways, whether it's hiking, biking, swimming, CrossFit, yoga, Pilates, Zumba, whatever it is. Moving your body in some form of way that, allows you to do hard things is going to be great for your mental and physical health. And then also, managing your stress. So whether that's meditation, prayer, journaling, getting out in nature, being with family, being with loved ones, like relationships, that part is really important when it comes to help manage our stress, which is going to help our hormones, become more balanced in the long run. And then also sleeping, we suck at sleeping, I think, in this country. We're like, because we're taught to grind and hustle and stay up till midnight and watch Netflix, and then, chug a bunch of energy drinks and, and Adderall, and go throughout the day and just, seize the day. I feel like it's killing us, more than we know. And so getting through those pillars of health and focusing on health, it's going to make you or help you show up a better version of yourself, a better mom, a better dad, a better husband, wife, employee, business owner, whatever it is that you are or you do, you will be a better version of yourself if you focus on, getting those 4 pillars of health in check, and And that's kind of what I'm trying to, flip the script a little bit in the fitness industry by saying, hey, instead of saying you're only successful if you get this body fat percentage or you get this Instagram model body, maybe that's not the most important thing. And maybe that's not even the healthiest thing. So let's stop pretending like that's the healthiest thing. And let's be more positive towards people who are trying to change their bodies and not shaming them for not getting this perfect body. I think that's kind of what I'm trying to say with that one.
Yeah. And you said it well. And I love that because you're changing the narrative with the word success. Everybody has different definitions of success, but the way that you explain it, it's very similar to the way that my definition of success, which Earl Nightingale said it best. He said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. An ideal is an idea, a goal that you have fallen in love with. And it could be a body fat percentage goal. That's totally fine. But the goal to be successful is not necessarily when you hit the goal. It's on the way towards it, right, Drew? It's who you have to become, the changes you need to make, the people you help, etc. That's when you're successful. But the minute that you quit and give up, that's when you are failing. You're not a failure, but you are failing. So I love that message because it could be related to business, to relationships, to other areas out there. It's not really about hitting the goal. It's about what you have to do on your way to that goal. So, Amen, brother. Let's get to some questions from the Keto Kamp Academy members. We have some great questions here. So I'm going to scroll up from the top, and I don't know who the user is. Let me get the name. But the question is, what's an acceptable amount of caffeine per day?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And,
Brian, that's from Brian.
Oh, it's from Ryan. That's where it's so individual, right? I know so many people that are super sensitive to caffeine. So my answer wouldn't apply to those people, right? Or someone that is, I know people that can drink coffee and go straight to bed. Like I can't, I'm kind of in the between. So I'm kind of in between. For me, I have about maybe 1 to 2 cups of coffee per day. I don't know how much, maybe 150 milligrams, 120.
That's about 100 milligrams. Yeah, 50 milligrams, 1 cup, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking at 2 cups of coffee. That's kind of the caffeine that does it for me. Now, there are some days where I might bump that up. Maybe I'm traveling, maybe I'm different time zones, whatever. And I can take that. But I do know if I'm bumping it up too much, too often, then I get burnout. Then I get diminishing returns to where I feel kind of almost exhausted from too much caffeine. So I kind of have to reset that and maybe take, a week off of caffeine to kind of reset my tolerance levels. Yeah. But that's such a hard question for us, one specific answer. I think it's going to take some experimentation for some people.
Yeah, no, it's a good answer. And I was actually wrong. I looked it up. It's 95 milligrams in 1 cup, 8 ounces of coffee. So if you're drinking 2 cups, you're getting
180.
180. So I like the answer because you are doing it in a cyclical way. You're having the right amount that you feel good on the days you're having coffee, right? This could help you, Brian. Then you're having a day or a week without it. So you're letting your body kind of not develop a resistance to it. Now, I'm guilty. I'm long overdue for like a month or 2 without coffee, but I just haven't made that leap yet. I'll sprinkle in it. It's hard. I'll sprinkle in a day. I'll sprinkle in 2 days, but then I'm like, I got to get the coffee. But I don't overdo it. I'm like you. If I have too much, I actually get tired and sleepy. So I have just the right amount in the morning. So great question, Brian. Yeah. Next question. Well, we have somebody who said emotional issues are a huge factor. So they're agreeing with you.
Yep.
Next question is, what do you think of water tank to get your body fat percentage? Anything else out there that you recommend?
I like the DEXA body scan. That one works really well. It's the most accurate that I've found. But here's the thing. I really don't care which one you use. I really don't. It's about measuring change. So be consistent with whatever device you're using. Like this journey, I used InBody, which is definitely not the most accurate from what I've stepped on 3 different times and gotten 3 different completely different results. So just what I'm saying is don't buy in too much to whatever the numbers are on any device you use. Go off of how you look or how you feel. Who cares like what your number is? Mm-hmm. Like, do you look lean? Like, can you see your 6-pack? Can you do you like the amount of fat you have on your body? Like, that's probably more important than, whatever method you use. But yeah, the water tank, I haven't used it personally, but I know some people that have. There's the calipers, there's the DEXA, there's a few different devices out there. I don't know if you like a certain one, Ben, that you like to use.
Yeah, I think the calipers are the easiest one to do. And I think as long as you keep the variables the same, so you have the same person test you at the same time of the day, and you do the same testing consecutively, that's a good method. So the calipers are the best thing you can do. It's like $10 on Amazon. It's not 100% accurate, but it gives you an idea. That was from Lynn Jacob. You know, when you guys who are watching, if you hit the link to give StreamYard your permission, I can actually see your name. That was Lynn Jacob who asked that question, who I had an awesome call with earlier today. Danielle, who's out in California, says, loving your thoughts on the emotional connection versus food addiction and retraining your neural pathways to overcome it. It's my biggest challenge. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah,
Drew?
I was just going to say, look, everyone out there that feels the same way, like this is my biggest challenge, keep fighting because you're worth it to figure out what works best for you. Like keep fighting to figure out whether it's therapy, meditation, you know, a gratitude list, whatever it is to help you break through that. That's what I'm trying to let people know is like, it's not as sexy as a 30-day, you know, summer body program, right? Like I get that. But if you can figure this out, it'll make the physical journey, whatever diet or program you do, so much easier if you can figure this part out. So just remember that you're worth it and it might take some time.
You're worth it, Danielle, and you're doing it. Lynn says, I have trained my brain to enjoy the smell when walking by a bakery or place that has amazing smells, not to go and indulge because I feel terrible after. So she acknowledges it, but doesn't have to actually indulge in it. That's pretty cool, huh?
That's some good self-awareness too, to be able to know, okay, I can smell it and get some satisfaction from it without having to actually eat the bread. That's kudos to you. I'm not on that Jedi level yet, but
that's great.
I'll train to get there.
I love that. I see Mariana join us in the back end studio. Mariana, if you want to join the live stream, just turn your camera on and give me a thumbs up and I'll bring you on here. I'll continue with these questions. Let's see what else we have here. I also can't believe Western medicine that will pay for somebody to have gastric bypass surgery if they are a certain weight. I know someone who purposely gained weight so they could get the surgery taken care of by their insurance company.
Oh,
what do you think about that?
I know that's happened too before, man, and it's so hard because my heart goes out to, you know, these people that they are willing to try anything. You know, they're desperate. Like they've tried some things. Maybe they haven't tried hard enough or long enough. Like who knows? What's not for us to judge. But it is heartbreaking, you know. But I do know some people that have had success with surgery and have found that happier balance. But, you know, for me, if this is your method to use to lose weight, one, I don't judge you, right? I don't judge you at all. Two, the biggest thing is to learn how to change your behavior with food, because even if you get the surgery and your behavior with food doesn't change, yeah, you're going to be forced to eat less of the food, but those cravings are still going to be there. The emotional eatings are still going to be there. Yeah. And I've seen people gain the weight back. Unfortunately, it's not guaranteed to keep the weight off. But like I said, I'm not one to judge anyone who does that, but it is kind of sad to see people gaining weight to be able to qualify for the surgery.
It's sad to see, not because we're judging, but because there are some holistic ways to do it that the person maybe explored, maybe didn't explore. We don't know the story, but that we just see, like, we know the body could heal as long as we start doing the things we need to do. So that's why it's sad. Danielle says, I'm curious, Drew, if you found a healthier replacement for Ben and Jerry's or if you have retrained your brain not to want that type of treat.
You know what? It's interesting. I haven't found a quality replacement yet. Like there are some good keto ice creams out there, Ben. Like I'm sure you've tried some that are pretty good. They're decent. But it's still the behavior behind it. If I'm doing it to escape, if I'm doing it to eat when I'm stressed out, that's kind of what it needs to be fixed. Luckily, I've done a lot of therapy and life coaching and self-reflection since my breakup to where I don't feel the need to have to binge eat anything, keto ice cream or Ben and Jerry's, to deal with those emotions. I would say, honestly, living a healthy lifestyle, exercising, eating healthy food for the most part is probably the most powerful antidepressant that exists. It's just being aware of, okay, maybe sometimes intentionally I'm going to eat this ice cream and I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm not doing it to escape. I'm not doing it with the intention to numb any emotions or pain, but maybe my girls want to have some ice cream tonight and we're going to do it as a family. I think there are certain situations where I'm okay with that, but it's all about your intention behind it. Whether it's keto ice cream or Ben and Jerry's, it doesn't matter. Like, what's your intention behind eating it? Same thing with alcohol, same thing with drugs. Like, I don't judge people that use drugs or alcohol. It's the intention behind why you're wanting to take that substance, whether it's food, drugs, or alcohol. Mm-hmm. What's your intention behind it? Be honest with yourself. And that's where self-awareness plays a big role in being able to control emotional eating.
Yeah, great share. Next question is from Mariana. She says, how important is a blood glucose monitor for the journey to health?
That's a good question. I think, having used this now for 8 months straight,
Wow.
It's an awesome tool. It's an awesome tool to have, Ben. Like, it really is. Like, it's so cool to be able to check my blood sugar after everything I eat or after hard exercise. I'm like, man, my blood sugar got up to 125 today after my workout session. And it's just good to know, okay, I do see these spikes every once in a while from maybe, you know, things that I'm not used to. And just being aware of that, I think it's good data. Is it important to, you know, to have for optimal health? No. Like, you could totally be healthy without having it. Same thing with not having a Whoop or having any kind of fitness tracker, a scale. You really don't need anything, but is it good data to have? Sure. If you feel like you have the budget for it, you're going to use that data for good. It can be beneficial to some people. It just depends on if you're the type of person that loves data, and then how you use that data, interpret it is important too. So.
Yeah, I agree. It's not necessary to achieve optimal health, but it could be a great tool if you use it the right way. I used the same one, Levels, for a couple months. Interviewed Dr. Casey. She's great. So they're doing some great work. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the CGM personally because I use it and I use that data. I see what exercise does. I see what a poor night is. I actually saw what coconut whipped cream did to jack up my glucose.
Really?
Dude. I had no idea. And I'm like, oh, no
How
more.
much did you have?
I had like, I don't know, like 4 tablespoons, which is not a lot, but it jacked it up over like 150, dude, just from that,
dude.
Which is not typical. So that didn't work for me. Margot, you want to join us here? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, let's bring Margot on the live stream here.
Which is not a lot, but it jacked it up.
Oh, wait. Mute the live stream, Margot. Otherwise, it's going to play on there. There we go.
Margot, you want to join us?
Oh, wait.
She's trying to figure out how to mute it.
So close the Facebook browser. Close the Facebook tab. Margot's also in Utah. She's in Heber.
Oh, cool. That's beautiful.
Unmute yourself, Margot. Unmute.
She doesn't know how to do it. Okay.
We'll get you on here.
Yeah.
give me a thumbs up when you. I see a little slash by your mute button, by your mic. Your mic. So hit the little mic. Just hit the little mic right there by your little, and it'll. But let me see you turn it on. Let's see.
No, still muted.
No. I know how to do it. Marco's been on here before. All right, we'll get to another question and we'll get back to you. Okay. Judy says, how do electrolytes affect hunger, energy, sleep, etc.?
That's a good question. I think that's something that's really hard to measure exactly. Like, hey, I've only had X amount of sodium, potassium, magnesium, and therefore, because of that, I'm craving Ben and Jerry's ice cream. How much is it emotional versus how much is it, physiological? It's hard to figure that out. But I will say that if your electrolytes are out of whack, you probably are more prone to crave certain foods and possibly be a little bit hungrier, and it could affect sleep. But even if you have those things balanced, doesn't guarantee that you'll sleep well, doesn't guarantee that you won't be hungry or have cravings because it could be emotional too. But if you're doing those, I would definitely highly recommend getting in the optimal amounts of electrolytes just to make sure. And then from there you could rule out, hey, it's not because I don't have my electrolytes in today. Maybe it's because I got in a fight with my spouse, or maybe it's I got in a fight with my kids, or whatever. It could be something else. So always get those, in every single day. No matter what, to rule that out.
Great advice. Okay, we have less than 5 minutes with Drew here. Margot, are you good to go? Yeah. Let me see. No. Hit the mute. No, you hit
mute.
If you hit the microphone, what happens?
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
I was trying to stop it. I'm so sorry for that. I was trying to stop all that double sound, and then anyway. Okay.
It's all good. Hey, Margot.
Thank you so much. Love this. This is amazing. Beautiful job. Just what an amazing example. And Ben always brings on amazing people. You both. Thank you.
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does. Okay, so what about the mental aspect of this? So I grew up beating myself up, beat up stick all the time, hating myself, have a bad day, think, okay, I didn't work out, I didn't eat perfect today, and I would just beat myself up. And then I've tried to be really careful with how I speak my words and not allow that go to my daughters. I've got 2 daughters that they have that so bad in their head. I mean, I think it's just hereditary, pass it down. And I just would love to assist them. And I have really been blessed in winning this battle, working with Ben and doing keto. I have not beat IF yet because of hypoglycemia, but we're still working towards it. But what do you do about the mental? What is the best way to just get that out?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Margot. And I wish there was like a super simple answer, like a pill you take and then boom, it's fixed, right? It is programming. It's years and years and decades of programming. Maybe it's passed on from your mom or her mom, and it was, on the subconscious level. Maybe you're not aware of it, but the fact that you are aware of it now, maybe will put your daughters in a better place to deal with it, because your awareness is there of like, okay, I'm learning how to do this. And like the things I mentioned earlier in the podcast, positive affirmations, daily gratitude list. If your girls see you as an example of, hey girls, I've been at war with my body my whole life, and I've hated my body my whole life, and I don't want that to happen to you. So here's these things that I'm doing. You can join me if you want to. You don't have to, but this is what I'm going to do to help fix that. And if you are struggling with self-esteem or, your relationship with your body, maybe we can do this together to work through this, because it is something that has to almost be unlearned. It's years and years and decades of programming. To be able to just unlearn it takes time. So therapy, life coaching, books, podcasts, meditation, positive affirmations, gratitude lists. I don't want to talk about things that maybe would make people feel uncomfortable, but plant medicines, breath work, things like that can really be powerful tools for some people. I'm open to all kinds of things. The things I listed are things I've seen work for a bunch of people. What works for you might be different. So be open to new things that help you raise your level of self-awareness and help shift your perception of what success is supposed to look like. Because I think the problem with most women is they've been taught and marketed to that success on a woman is to be skinny, fit, lean, beautiful, sexy, but not too sexy. And like, there's so much pressure from society to be all these things all at once. And there's so much pressure to unlearn that. It's going to take some time. You look fairly young, and your daughters are probably young too. You'll probably be able to figure that out. Just be patient with yourself, learn how to operate out of a place of self-love instead of self-hate, and catch yourself when you're judging yourself. Catch yourself when you're, looking down on yourself, or you're beating yourself up, you're feeling guilty or ashamed because your body isn't this, or your body's not that, or maybe you ate some Ben and Jerry's ice cream. And even with, knowing that you shouldn't have, like, those kinds of, things that happen where you catch yourself is a great first step. That means you're becoming more aware. Whether or not you do it is a whole different conversation. But being aware of when it happens and saying, okay, I see what's happening now. I'm observing these thoughts instead of attaching myself to these thoughts. That's the biggest step or jump in self-awareness that happens, where you become the observer of your thoughts instead of reacting to your thoughts, attaching yourself to your thoughts, attaching yourself to your emotions, attaching yourself and reacting to those triggers where you don't even think about it. You don't even process it. You don't even thoughtfully respond. You just react. If you can catch yourself in those moments, that's where you're going to start to see some progress. And then from there, you can detach yourself from those emotions and be more in control of how you respond. And so the list of things that I mentioned can help. Be open to those things, be patient with yourself, and show yourself some grace.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Margot.
You threw some Joe Dispenza in there.
Thank you, Margot, for sharing. Appreciate you. Okay, Drew, I know we're out of time. We have Judy. I don't know if you have 3 minutes, or do you have a meeting you got to get to?
No, we're good. 3 minutes.
Okay. So let's bring Judy on here. Hey, Judy.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Judy.
Yeah.
Thanks, both of you. And really enjoying this. My question may end up being a similar. Sorry, I'm holding my phone trying to get in the camera view.
We see you.
Started clean keto and with Ben mid-November. It's been going great, but I've kind of, I don't want to say stuck. I don't think that's the right word, but finding myself to be a little bit more complacent. And this might be a similar answer to what you were giving, Margot, but kind of how to move out of complacency. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So I can't really speak to what like Ben is doing with you. I would trust him in helping you adjust or modify things moving forward if you do feel stuck or complacent. I think when that happens from a mental and emotional perspective in anyone's journey, which has happened to me when I did my recent weight loss journey, I remember there was 1 week where I gained weight when I went to Hawaii, and I was like a little bit distraught. I'm a little bit frustrated. There was another week where I was supposed to lose 3 pounds, 4 pounds to meet my goal, and I only lost 1.5 pounds. And here I am, a trainer, the person with the knowledge that knows how to, eat correctly and exercise correctly to lose the weight. I didn't lose the weight I was supposed to. And so first of all, let me just let you know that I understand your frustration. I understand where you're coming from, and it can be frustrating. The problem is that we sometimes are in such a hurry to see results that if we don't see results that aren't visible, that aren't trackable, we think, well, I'm not making progress. And this is where non-scale victories come into play, of being able to look for other areas of your life where you might be improving. Are you getting stronger with your workouts? Are you building up your endurance? Are you fitting into your clothes better? Are you, waking up with more energy? Like, it's starting to notice things outside of the scale, outside of weight loss, outside of getting skinnier. Are there other areas that you maybe are improving? And like I said, Ben might be able to speak more to this because he knows what programming you're doing and maybe how to switch things up. But I would also look for the non-scale victories during this journey and just realize that you don't want to be in this just for the results. Because if you're in this just for the results, you're going to have moments of this complacency where you're going to stall, hit plateaus, and then you're going to get burnt out. You're like, well, I'm doing all this effort for minimal results. Why would I even do this? And if you could flip your perception and realize that you're doing this because you're worth it to fight for your physical health, then you start to fall in love with the process. And the results, whether they come or not, don't determine your level of happiness or your level of success. You're doing this because you're worth it to fight for this best version of yourself and for this physical health. And doing these things, are going to make you feel better in the long run, whether the results come or not. And so that's where fulfillment comes into the journey, where you realize that, hey, I'm doing this because I know that I love myself and I'm worth it to fight for the best version of myself, right? And yeah, it would be nice if I had the results too, for sure. But so I understand your frustration on that, but don't make it just about the results, that if you don't get the results, you fail. If you do get the results, you're a success. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Judy. Great question. It was great seeing you. Drew,
yeah.
I want to thank you, brother, for going a little overtime with me today. Where is the best place for everybody to go check you out?
Yeah, really quick. This is really important because I got to mention this one. Does anyone else think Ben and Drew look like brothers from other mothers?
We get that all the time. Yeah,
I know. It's so true. Fit2Fat2Fit. Oh, sorry. Which site is it on?
There you go.
Fit2Fat2Fit.com. Social media. That's all the same. Fit2Fat2Fit. You can check me out there, you guys. But really appreciate you, Ben. Always a pleasure. Thank you to everyone that came on here. I wish I had more time to answer your questions or spend time with you, but you guys are in good hands with Ben.
Thank you, Drew. I appreciate you. We'll do a round 3, maybe in Hawaii in person.
Yes.
Love you, brother. Thank you for showing up in this world, and we'll talk very soon, man. Have a great trip to Hawaii, and thank you for what you do.
See ya.
Thank you, brother.